This happened 5 years ago. I was living alone in my small apartment on the top floor of a building in the city. I was working as a freelance graphic designer, trying to find inspiration while dealing with the loneliness from my last breakup. I've never stopped thinking about it. My apartment was always quiet, just me staring at my laptop screen for hours, chasing ideas that never seemed to come. The hum of the city outside faded into white noise, a backdrop to my isolation. One night I worked late. The only sound was the tapping of my fingers on the keyboard. I was focused, pushing through a tough client project. Then I heard it. A soft tapping sound against my window. I glanced up, nerves prickling. It was late, perhaps too late for a neighbor. I dismissed it. Just the trees, I thought. Just the wind. But the tapping continued, steady and rhythmic. It broke the calm, sending a chill through me. I felt my heart quicken. I stood up and crept to the window, my breath feeling heavy in my chest. I could see nothing outside, just darkness. I shook my head and went back to my laptop, tapping away, trying to forget about it. Hours passed, but the tapping returned, more insistent this time. It felt wrong. I fidgeted in my chair, glancing at the window every few minutes. I just wanted to finish my project and go to bed. My fingers trembled as I typed. The tapping kept pulling my attention away. I wrapped my arms around myself, feeling the cold air seep into my skin. Then things got stranger. I noticed my reflection in the window. It seemed to linger a moment longer than I did. I blinked and my heart raced. I was sure of it. I turned, but there was nothing behind me. I tried to shake it off, but as I sat back down, I heard something else. Laughter. It sounded so close but echoed in the empty apartment. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. No one was supposed to be there. The laughter stopped. But I felt as if I were being watched, like a gaze glued to my back. I could barely think. My heart was in my throat, pounding like a drum. I glanced at the reflection again. It was just me, but something felt wrong. I started to feel dizzy. The atmosphere shifted. I sensed a presence, heavy and thick, suffocating me. Then, just as suddenly, the laughter returned, this time richer, darker, almost mocking. My skin crawled. I pressed my palms against my ears, as if to block it out. But it wouldn't stop. Then I felt a breath on the back of my neck, and I turned around, but no one was there. I backed away from the window, my heart racing. The stillness of my apartment felt suffocating. I wanted to turn on the lights, to chase away the shadows, but something stopped me. Fear had my legs anchored to the ground. The laughter echoed in my mind, like a cruel reminder that I wasn't alone. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. I needed a distraction. I told myself to focus on the client project again. I returned to my laptop, fingers hovering over the keys, but the screen felt dimmer now. I closed my eyes, forcing the laughter out of my thoughts. Suddenly, there was a loud crash from the living room. I jumped, my heart skipping a beat. It sounded like something had fallen. I crept out of my room, my footsteps silent on the wooden floor. I held my breath as I moved to the doorway. Peering around the corner, I scanned the room. The only light came from the street lamps outside, casting eerie shadows. My heart pounded in my chest. I was about to walk toward the sound when I noticed a picture frame lying on the floor. My favorite photo of my ex and me, shattered. I knelt to pick it up, my fingers trembling. Why had it fallen? I hadn't even moved it. There was no breeze, just an uncomfortable silence. I felt a ripple of unease crawl down my spine. In my attempt to shake off the fear, I gathered my courage and stepped into the room. Just as I was about to set the frame on the table, the lights flickered and then went out completely. Darkness enveloped me like a thick fog. Panic surged within me. I turned around, my breath quickening. "Hello?" I called out, my voice trembling. It felt foolish, but I needed to hear something in return. No answer came, only the oppressive silence. The street lamp outside cast ghostly shapes through the window. I fumbled for my phone, the glow from the screen barely cutting through the darkness. Then I heard it again, the laughter, closer this time. It echoed through the room, mixed with a low whisper that sent chills down my spine. I spun around, clutching the phone like a lifeline, heart racing. I could see something, just a shadow, darting near the corner of the room. "Who's there?" I shouted, trying to sound brave. Every fiber of my being screamed to run, but I couldn't move. The laughter morphed into a haunting melody, familiar yet twisted. It tugged at my memory, deepening the cold in my gut. I desperately tried to recall where I'd heard it before. I took a step back, but my heel knocked into something solid. My breath caught again. I turned, half expecting to see something lurking behind me. But no one was there until I felt a chill creep up my spine. My phone buzzed violently in my hand, the screen flashing a message. "Look behind you." My blood ran cold. I didn't want to look. But I had no choice. Trembling, I slowly turned around. When I saw it, a figure standing in the darkened corner, barely illuminated by the faint light from my phone. I couldn't breathe. I stared at the figure, my heart pounding in my chest. It was more than just a shadow. It had shape, posture, something that made it feel disturbingly real. My instincts screamed at me to run, but my feet felt glued to the floor. "Who are you?" I croaked. My voice was barely a whisper, thick with fear. The figure didn't move. It stood there, silent, as if waiting for me to do something. I shifted my weight, trying to steal a glance at my phone's screen for any escape options. But just as I did, it took a step forward, a slow, deliberate movement that made my blood run cold. "Please don't come any closer," I stammered, my voice shaking. Suddenly, the laughter burst forth again, echoing off the walls. It bubbled up from deep within the shadows, a sound so chilling that I felt it in my bones. My phone buzzed once more, a reminder that I wasn't dealing with just an apparition of my imagination. 5 years flickered on the screen, the words haunting me. I didn't understand. 5 years since what? I didn't have time to ponder the question as the figure lunged at me, its face still obscured by darkness. Instinct took over. I spun on my heel and sprinted toward the kitchen. I fumbled the light switch, but it only clicked uselessly in the dark. The laugh faded into a low growl, more sinister than before. I grabbed a knife from the counter, praying it would give me some semblance of security. I took a deep breath, forcing my mind to clear. "What do you want?" I shouted, the echo of my voice returning to me. My heart raced as footsteps approached, tapping softly against the wooden floor. The threat was closing in. If this was some kind of sick joke, I wanted to scream. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. The feeling in my gut told me this was dangerous, and I needed to face whatever it was. I braced myself, knife raised in front of me like a shield. Then I heard it, the soft sound of breathing. It was deliberate, almost taunting, as if it reveled in my fear. I stepped back, my grip tightening on the knife, ready to defend myself. "Show yourself," I demanded, my throat dry. In the dim glow of my phone, I caught a glimpse of movement. A figure shifted, letting the light play on their features just for a moment. I gasped. It was a face I recognized, a face I hadn't seen in years. My ex, looking the same as the night we parted ways. But something was wrong, the eyes were hollow, and there was a hint of that same twisted smile from my nightmares. "Why are you here?" I breathed, desperate for answers. As if in response, the lights flickered on suddenly, illuminating the room fully. My heart stopped. The figure was now gone, vanished into thin air. I looked around frantically, but I was alone. I stumbled backward, confusion and fear swirling inside me. Why had I seen them now? After all these years? I took a deep breath, my eyes locking on the shattered picture frame on the floor. It was a reminder of a past I thought I had buried. But now, with this new development, I had to find out what it all meant. I had to dig deeper into what had happened 5 years ago. Before I could think twice, I grabbed my coat and headed for the door, an urgent need to uncover the truth pulling me forward. Then I heard it again, the laughter, echoing down the hallway. I hesitated. It was time to confront whatever haunted me, I just hoped I was ready. I stepped outside, the cool night air hitting me like a splash of cold water. Every nerve in my body was on high alert as my mind raced. I walked towards the front walk, glancing back at my house, half expecting the figure to appear again. But it remained shrouded in silence, hiding whatever horrors lay within. I needed answers. I had to revisit the past to figure out why my ex had haunted me like this. The days following our breakup had been days filled with confusion and heartache. Had I left something unresolved? I didn't want that to be the case. I made my way to the small coffee shop that was pretty much my second home 5 years ago, when we were still together. It was only a few blocks away and would still be open at this hour. I'd spent countless nights here, sipping on dark roast and contemplating my future. I hoped the familiar surroundings might clear my head or bring something to light. The neon sign flickered as I pushed the door open, the bell chiming softly overhead. The aroma of coffee was comforting, but beneath it was an unsettling tension. The barista, a familiar face, looked up with a hint of concern in her eyes. "Hey, you okay?" she asked, her voice gentle. "I just need to think," I replied, forcing a smile as I walked to my usual table in the corner. I pulled out my phone, staring at the time. It had been 5 years since that night. As I settled into my seat, I noticed a small table nearby with a newspaper spread out. My heart raced again when I saw the date 5 years ago. I leaned closer, reading the headline, "Local couple found dead in mysterious circumstances." A chill ran down my spine. My ex had been connected to that case through rumors. Everyone in town said they saw them arguing that night, just before everything went wrong before they were found dead. It felt like a punch to the gut. Before I could process what I was reading, my phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. My skin prickled. 5 years later, it's time to remember, it read. I glanced around the cafe, feeling a knot form in my stomach. Did they know what I'd done? Just then, the door swung open violently. The wind howled, and an icy draft swept through the room. Lights flickered, and for a heartbeat, I felt as if the ground had shifted beneath me. I instinctively looked over my shoulder, the hairs on my neck standing tall. And that's when I saw him again, my ex, standing in the doorway, a silhouette against the light. It was like a nightmare come to life, but this time, he was smiling. "Don't you want to know the truth?" he called out, his voice hauntingly familiar. My breath hitched. I should have run, but instead, I was frozen in place, caught in his gaze. I had to decide, in that moment, whether to face my fears or flee from everything I avoided. Then came the laughter again, soft yet ominous. My heart raced as I stood to confront him, but I had no idea what would happen next. I blinked, the world around me fading as disbelief took hold. How was this possible? 5 years had come and gone. He shouldn't be here, a ghost from the past awkwardly stepping back into my present. "Why are you here?" I managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper. "I've missed you." His smile broadened, but there was something unnerving about it, like he knew more than he let on. The barista shifted behind the counter, casting nervous glances our way. I could feel the weight of her gaze, the tension in the air crawling under my skin. My heart thumped erratically, my mind raced. A part of me wanted to believe this was just a trick my mind was playing, a cruel joke after all those sleepless nights filled with dread. "What do you want?" I spoke, daring to take a step closer, unwilling to show fear. "To help you remember." His voice was a low, soothing melody, but it sent a shiver down my spine. He extended a hand, an invitation laced with something darker. Before I could respond, the lights flickered again, plunging the cafe into semi-darkness. A pulse of fear radiated through me. Suddenly, a figure rushed in from the street, nearly colliding with my ex. "Get away from her!" The newcomer shouted, panic tinged with authority. I recognized him immediately. Jacob, a friend from college, had always kept an eye on me, even when I thought I was on my own. He stepped closer to me, shielding me as if he could block out the shadows that threatened to consume us both. "What the hell is going on?" Jacob demanded, eyes darting from me to my ex. Just talking, my ex replied coolly. Don't you want to hear what I have to say? No, we don't, I shouted, adrenaline pumping through me as I took a shaky step back. There was something wrong with this whole scenario. An unsettling feeling clawed at my insides. Let me show you, he whispered, his gaze unyielding. It's time to revisit that night. The air went still, heavy with a different kind of tension. I remembered so clearly that night 5 years ago, the chaos, the fear. But those memories were fragments, hazy and distorted. What do you mean? I breathed, feeling trapped between my past and this strange confrontation. He began to walk toward me, but Jacob stepped closer, fists clenched. I wouldn't let you take her anywhere, he said, firm in resolve. Suddenly, my ex's expression twisted into something darker. You think you can protect her? You're just a bystander. That's when I realized. The flickering lights dimmed even further, and an unusual energy buzzed in the air. I felt a pull, a gravitational force, and my head began to spin. Run! Jacob yelled, and in that moment, as I tore my eyes from my excess, everything shifted. I stumbled back, the world around me fading to black. It felt like being yanked underwater, and all I could hear was the sound of my own racing heart. But then came the echo of his voice, soft yet chilling. You can't escape the truth. When I finally opened my eyes, I found myself lying on a cold, hard floor. The familiarity of the cafe had vanished. I blinked, confused, and tried to push myself up. My body felt heavy, like a weight rested on my chest. I was in a dimly lit room, shadows trailing in and out of view. Where am I? I murmured, my voice hoarse. I glanced around, panic creeping in as I noticed the walls were bare, save for some peeling paint. The only light came from a flickering bulb above, casting eerie patterns on the floor. Just take a second, a voice said from the far corner. It was Jacob. He looked disheveled, his brow furrowed in concern. Relief flooded me, but it was quickly replaced by confusion. What happened? Where's your ex? Jacob finished for me, eyes scanning the room. I don't know. We just disappeared, right after you, I remember, I interrupted, thinking of the moment everything went dark. What does he want? Why would he come back now? Jacob shook his head. I don't think he's just here to talk. I felt something when I saw him, like he had power. I shivered at his words. There had always been something unsettling about my ex, something that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. We need to get out of here, I urged, pushing to my feet. As soon as I stood, a door creaked open behind us. I turned, heart racing, to see 2 figures enter. My ex stepped through first, a smug smile on his face. The other person, a man, followed closely behind, his expression unreadable. Welcome to my little gathering, my ex said, arms wide. I promise you I'd help you remember. Let us take a trip down memory lane. No way, I said, backing toward Jacob. This isn't right. Let us go. The man beside my ex stepped forward, his voice smooth but dangerous. You have something we need, and we aren't leaving without it. What could they want from me? I was about to ask, but then I noticed something, a flicker of movement on the floor beside me. I glanced down and saw a small, crumpled photograph partially hidden in the dust. My heart raced as I recognized the faces on it. It was a group photo from that night, 5 years ago, me, Jacob, and my ex, all smiling. Do you see it? My ex taunted. You're closer to the truth than you think. Stop playing games. I shot back, trembling. It was all too much. My mind had been clouded by fear and confusion, but now something clicked. I know you took something from me, I said, realization hitting me like a cold wave. What happened that night? He stepped closer, his smile widening, eyes sparkling with something almost manic. Let us just say it's your turn to remember. Before I could react, the man lunged at me, but Jacob was quicker. He shoved me back, guarding me with his body. Get away from her. In that moment, I felt it rising again, a strange energy surging through the air. I had to fight it. Jacob, run! But before we could make a move, everything around me warped, the walls bending, the light distorting. Then, we were plunged back into that darkness. Somewhere in the shadows, I heard my ex's chilling laughter echoing as if hope was slipping through my fingers once more. When the darkness faded, we were somewhere else entirely. My heart raced as I took in our new surroundings. We were in a long hallway, lined with doors, the air thick with a musty smell. The flickering light from overhead cast erratic shadows that danced with every slight movement. "Where are we now?" I murmured, glancing at Jacob, whose expression mirrored my fear. "I don't know," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "We need to find a way out." Suddenly, I noticed a door at the far end of the hallway, and it stood slightly ajar, a sliver of light spilling out. I nodded toward it, and without a word, we moved cautiously down the hall, our footsteps muted against the worn carpet. The door creaked when I pushed it open, revealing a small room filled with scattered papers and broken furniture. In the middle of the chaos stood an old projector. My stomach twisted as I recognized the familiar contraption. "What is this place?" I asked, stepping further inside. The walls had photographs tacked to them, some faded, others vivid and alive. The images showed us laughing at that party 5 years ago. The very night that changed everything. Jacob rushed to the projector, fumbling with the knobs. "What if we watch this? Maybe it will give us some answers," he suggested. I nodded hesitantly, my heart pounding. "Just be careful." The projector whirred to life, casting an image onto the wall. The scene resembled a nightmare. Laughter, bright faces, then it shifted. I saw myself standing in a corner, clutching a drink, but the expression on my face was haunting. I looked lost, staring at my ex, who loomed over someone on the floor. The air felt colder as the image flickered. "Turn it off!" I shouted, panic rising. "I don't want to see this." Jacob reached to stop it, but the film seemed to have a life of its own, playing on. My ex's eyes glinted in the light, filled with that same manic energy I felt earlier. Then, the image jerked, darkening, cutting off abruptly. "Did you see that?" Jacob's voice trembled. "Something happened, something he did." "Something he did," I echoed, feeling a dark dread settle in my gut. "There's a reason he keeps coming back." As we processed this, the door suddenly slammed shut behind us. The sound echoed, sending chills down my spine. Panic surged, and I rushed to the door, but it wouldn't budge. "Jacob!" I cried, my voice rising. He spun around, adrenaline fueling his movements. The projector continued its haunting display, the light flickering in erratic patterns. The photographs on the wall shifted, showing glimpses of the night again, and again a figure moving ominously towards me, obscured but undeniable. "Is that?" Jacob pointed, fear gripping his features. "This can't be happening," I whispered, terror clawing at my throat. "I don't want to remember." Just then, the wall behind the projector cracked, and a low growl reverberated through the room as dust filled the air. Something dark began to materialize from the shadows, forming into a shape that was all too familiar. I realized with horror. We're not alone! As the darkness approached, the world around us warped again. A sense of urgency pulsed within me. I could feel it. Whatever power my ex had, it was being amplified here. "We need to escape now!" Jacob shouted, desperation edging his voice. I turned to the wall, panic crashing over me. That's when I saw it. A small window, barely visible, just behind the projector. It was our only chance. I rushed toward the window, my heart hammering in my chest. Jacob followed close behind, casting quick glances at the dark shape that loomed ever closer. The shadows reached for us, clawing at the air, whispering the secrets I'd long tried to bury. "Can you fit?" I asked, pulling at the edges of the window frame. It felt rusted, but I pushed harder. "Maybe," Jacob said, breathless. "You go first." I hesitated, glancing back at the shadow that twisted and writhed, becoming more defined. I could almost see his face, the familiar blend of anger and distress that once frightened me so much. I focused again on the window, widening my stance. "Okay, I'm going," I said, diving towards it. My body squeezed through the tight space, the rough edges scraping against my skin. I felt a rush of triumph as I tumbled out the other side, landing on cold ground. "Now, Jacob!" I shouted, but the heavy thud of footsteps drew my attention back into the room. I could see his silhouette struggling to climb through. "Come on!" I screamed, panic swirling in my veins. I reached for him, but the darkness shifted, swirling around Jacob. It latched onto him like a predator, pulling him back into the depths of the room. "Help! Lucy!" he cried, his voice coated with fear. "I'm trying," I yelled, my heart racing as I grasped for him. My fingertips brushed against his hand, but the darkness was merciless, wrapping around him tighter. The sound of shattered glass echoed as the projector burst, sending a shower of sparks that illuminated the room briefly. I felt my throat tighten. "Jacob!" With one last desperate lunge, Jacob gave a powerful kick against the floor. He pulled himself through the window just as the edge of the shadow lunged ahead, grasping at his shirt. He fell onto the ground beside me, gasping. We scrambled to our feet and sprinted away from the chaotic darkness that roared and hissed behind us. "Where are we?" Jacob gasped, his eyes wide with disbelief. I looked around. We were outside under the night sky, but everything glimmered with an unnatural glow. Buildings loomed around us, but they were all twisted, as if reality itself had been corrupted somehow. "I don't know, but we have to keep moving," I said, feeling an urgency that was almost overwhelming. We turned to run down the street, but something lingered in the air. Shadows danced on the edges of my vision. "I can feel him," Jacob breathed. "Yes, close." Just then, an echoing laugh pierced the silence, sending chills through my bones. The hairs on my neck stood up. I didn't need to look back to know he was following us, and he wouldn't stop. "What do we do?" Jacob gasped. I spotted a narrow alleyway and pointed. "In there. We might find a way out." We veered off the street, skidding to a halt and racing down the alley. But the shadows followed us, pulsing with an energy that felt familiar yet terrifying. "No! This can't be happening!" I shouted, pushing harder as panic clawed at my insides. The alleyway opened up into a dead end, walls rising like giants to cage us. My mind raced. What now? I breathlessly wondered. That's when, despite the fear, I noticed a faint shimmer around the wall's edge. An outline of something I couldn't quite make out. "Jacob, look!" I pointed. "There. Do you see it?" He squinted, his fear twisting into confusion. "What is that?" Without hesitation, I stepped toward it. Whatever it was, it felt like the only thing left that could save us. But as I reached out to touch it, the echoing laugh filled the air again, closer this time. I could almost feel his breath at my back. There was no time left. The shimmer rippled ahead of me, and I didn't think. I lunged forward, hands outstretched. "We have to get through!" I shouted, hoping it was a way out. My fingertips brushed the outline, and a jolt of energy shot through me. It felt alive, pulsing like a heartbeat. "Lucy, wait!" Jacob called, but the desperation in his voice only pushed me forward. I touched the shimmer, and instantly the alley erupted in blinding light. The darkness behind us recoiled, like it had been burned. My heart raced as I felt myself pulled into the light. Everything shifted, the world folding in on itself. One moment I was trapped in the alley, and the next I stumbled forward into a different place altogether. I gasped, finding myself in an open field, bathed in silver moonlight. "Are we safe?" Jacob asked, panting beside me. I glanced around, squinting against the brightness. Trees sparkled as though dusted with glitter, and a gentle breeze stirred the air. "I don't know," I managed, my heart still pounding, half expecting the shadows to chase us here. But nothing followed. As I caught my breath, I was unsettled by the quiet. The usual sounds of the city were gone, replaced by an eerie stillness. "This isn't normal," I whispered. Jacob took a few steps away from me, peering into the distance. "Look," he said, pointing. At the edge of the field, a figure stood motionless, cloaked in a mist. I squinted, trying to see it clearly. It looked familiar, and dread washed over me. Is that? But before I could finish, there was that laugh again. This time, it was different, joyful and sinister. It echoed across the field, bouncing off the trees, sending a shiver down my spine. Run! I yelled, instinctively grabbing Jacob's arm. We turned, desperate to flee, but the ground beneath us trembled. Lucy, what is happening? Jacob shouted. The mist swirled closer, revealing the figure. I froze, recognition hitting me like a punch to the gut. It was him, the one who haunted my nightmares, the face I thought I'd left behind. Welcome back, Lucy, he said, his voice smooth and taunting. Did you miss me? My stomach churned with a mix of fear and anger. I wanted to scream, to demand why he was here, but nothing came out. I seized Jacob's hand tightly. We have to go now. We bolted toward the edge of the field, the laughter chasing us like a dark shadow. But every step felt heavier, as though the ground was trying to hold us back. Lucy, wait! Jacob shouted, panic in his voice. What if there's nowhere to escape? We can't stop! I yelled, tears stinging my eyes. I wasn't ready to face him again, to confront the pain I thought I'd buried. But the figure was gaining on us, gliding effortlessly through the mist. Then, something unexpected happened. The ground beneath my feet shimmered again, the same energy from the alley. I stumbled and shouted, Jacob, behind me! He barely had time to react as the shimmer grew brighter, enveloping us once more. I felt both terrified and hopeful. Just as the laughter reached its peak, everything exploded into light, and I heard a final echo, I'll find you again, Lucy. Then darkness. I awoke on my bedroom floor, the sunlight streaming through the window, warming my face. For a moment, I lay still, confusion swirling in my mind. Was it all just a dream? My heart still raced, beating in time with the lingering echoes of laughter that seemed to fade with the morning light. I sat up, disoriented, glancing around. Everything looked as it should, the same familiar walls, my laptop perched on the desk as if it had never been disturbed. I blinked, taking a deep breath, trying to ground myself. Maybe I was safe now. Maybe it was over. But then I noticed it. The shattered picture frame still lay on the floor, and my heart dropped. I crouched down, picking it up. The photo was still there, but something shifted in my mind. Memories flickered just off the edges of my consciousness, teasing. I could almost hear his voice again. The laughter. That laugh, filled with something dark and sinister, and I couldn't shake the feeling that it hadn't been just a nightmare. I stood up, shakily moving to the window, looking out into the same street that had been familiar for years. But something felt different. The lights seemed brighter, and the air charged with uncertainty. Maybe I had escaped him physically, at least, but had I truly left whatever haunted me behind? There was still so much I didn't understand, so many questions that clashed in my mind. Why had he returned after all this time? What did he mean, I'll find you again? As if answering my unspoken thoughts, my phone buzzed on the desk, vibrating against the wood. I hesitated before picking it up. It was a message from an unknown number. It's never truly over. A chill traveled down my spine. I didn't respond. Instead, I stared at the screen, waiting, expecting more, unable to breathe. Just then, my doorbell rang, a cheerful sound breaking the suffocating tension. I hesitated for a moment before I walked to the door, heart racing. What if it was him? But when I opened it, I was greeted by a delivery person, holding a small box. I took it and thanked them, confused. The box felt unnaturally cold against my hands. I stared at it, the label reading foreclosure. Unease settled in my stomach as I opened it. Inside lay a crumpled envelope, and something glinted under the dim light, a locket. I pulled it out and opened it, revealing a photograph of my ex inside. The same haunting smile from my dreams stared back at me. In that moment, I felt it again, that strange pressure in the air, like I was being watched. With shaky hands, I shoved the locket back into the box, slamming it shut. I stepped back, breath quickening. Whatever had happened last night was still alive, buried just beneath the surface. I moved to the window again, looking out at the world, but my heart was heavy with uncertainty. The city buzzed on, oblivious, while I was stuck with something shrieking just beneath the surface, a storm of memories and shadows, memories that refused to be forgotten. I glanced at the photo on the floor, my ex smiling back at me. I couldn't just pretend it hadn't happened. The laughter echoed faintly, ghosting in the back of my mind. It changed everything, seeping into my very being. But with the world at my feet, and the question lingering, could I ever truly leave him behind? I also felt a strange kind of resolve. Perhaps I needed to find the truth, to reconcile with the past that chased me. I moved cautiously toward the door, the unsettling energy echoing in my core, the laughter, the shadows, all calling me back. I took a deep breath, a mixture of dread and determination swelling inside me. The path forward was unclear, but one thing was certain. I hadn't seen the last of him. Not yet.